Hello and welcome to the Not My Job Pod. I am your host, Emily Gant, and today I am joined by James Gerhart, who I met at a Saint Motel show in Berlin at, I don't even remember now, it's Columbia Theater, Columbia
Something
Halle.
like that. It all blends together. I don't remember either, but it was Berlin. I do remember that.
I'm sure it does blend together for you, especially. I know that I met you, yeah, you were at the merch table working
Yep.
obviously with the band, for the band. But what is your job title? I don't even know.
Man, so I would go with just I'm a roadie at this point. I've done everything under the sun in my just brief almost 3 years of touring. This past year I've done merch all year and a few tour managing gigs, but for the most part it's been merch. So that was like this year, that was my title. But prior to that, I've tour managed, I've done playback, which is like tracks and all the computer stuff of the show, backline tech, guitar tech, stage manager. So I do a lot of things. This past year, merch has been the primary gig, especially with Saint Motel. 68 shows with them this year, something like that.
That's crazy.
Plus other artists this summer. So
I don't even know where to start at this point. I know I want to get into all of it, but for example, if you were like, I guess, how do you get into this? How do you find out,
that,
like, hey, I met this band? I don't know. Is it like a
so
company? How does it work?
all of my gigs has kind of come very differently. We're gonna have to go like growing up. I've always wanted to tour, just never really like worked out. That's like
Mhm.
always been a dream of mine. So we finally moved to Nashville almost 3 years ago, and my first gig I got was with an artist that back when I was working at some big churches down in Florida. But like music has always been music production. That's always been a part of my life throughout. But that first gig I got as like a backline tech stage manager, the church I was working at hosted the concert, and I had met those people during that. And so when I first moved to town, I was able to call up and be like, "Hey, do you guys need anybody, or do you guys know of anybody?" Um, Other than that, like so I did that. That was only one tour, and then I worked for a larger country artist, Nico Moon, for almost 9 months. And that gig I got because I met a dude. My band opened for the band that he was working for back in 2016, and he was like the front of house guy who became the production manager for Nico Moon. And I've always been good at networking. I just keep in touch. I love people, and so he's just someone I've kept in contact with literally since I was a senior in high school, and I'm
Mhm.
28 now. So ended up when that gig was done, I was looking for the next gig. My wife's boss at her work, the CEO, he's toured his whole life, and he's like, "You go through your phone, every contact that you know who is at any sort of thing in the industry, text them and see what happens." So it's honestly just been a lot of inner workings of just people I've known and all that. And then even this gig, Saint Motel, now getting to now the Saint Motel gig, I'd actually gone like 6 months no job, which is part of when you go to a new city, new town, new career path happens. It is what it is. But a friend of mine was actually on this gig. I interviewed with a company that produces their merch and does all that, and they didn't have any spots open at the time. So I was like, dang. And then fast forward, the guy who was with Same Hotel was like, I don't want to tour anymore. And then I got his spot on this gig.
Cool. So how long do people usually do that? I guess, like, I don't know, is it per tour, or do they like, are they going to invite you back at the next one, or how does it work?
It all depends on the type of gig. I know for merch, like A3 specifically, they try their best to keep the same reps with the same artists all the time because you build a rapport. Like I know how the same Motel guys run. They already know because it's not just a job on the road. You're also living with people on a bus for in same hotel. They go out for months at a time. So it's like 6 weeks I'm living with people. So if they already know the guy, we already know we all get along. It's like, all right,
Mhm.
we don't separate that. But some
Yeah.
cases like next, I'm looking. I don't know what next year looks like quite yet. Same hotel doesn't have a lot of shows in the books. So from a personal standpoint, it's like I can't make my calendar around 6 shows. Like baby on the way, I got a wife, got to pay bills. Like can necessarily do that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense, but it was nice, like, I don't know, because we were stressed. Well, my friend really wanted to buy a T-shirt, and then we were talking to you, and then we heard, like, music come on, and we were like, "Oh, no, is that them?" And you were like, "No, no, it'll be like," and you said something super specific. You were like, "3 songs, 16 minutes," or, like,
Yeah,
something like.
yeah, yeah. You just like like it's very I'm not monotonous because like I love the job, so it's not like boring. But you do it is like the day kind of is the same every day. So there is a routine in the midst of chaos.
Yeah. And how
So
many cities did you actually hit up on this tour?
I think it was 68. I think it was 68
68.
because we did a spring run. So that was like just under 4 months, split into two halves. So spring first leg, second leg. Um, that was all like A level cities: New York City, LA, Seattle, like all the big ones. Then they took the summer off. I worked with a bunch of other bands during the thing. And then the fall, Europe. So that was 11 shows, 10 shows, 10, 11 shows in Europe. Mostly Germany, to be honest, a lot, mostly Germany. I feel like we were in Germany the entire time.
Hmm.
And then came back. They went to Australia, did 4 shows. I did not go to Australia. I came back for a week. I
And
also
how do
picked up a
they?
gig when I was there. I forget who I worked for, but I also came back, did a gig. And then when they came back from that, it was 4 weeks out for the last leg of tour.
So how do they even decide? I guess what parts of the tour that you're coming on versus not?
It's like cost effective at that point. I go on most gigs, even like one offs here and there. But like Australia, by the time you pay taxes for the merch and getting the merch to Australia and all that, and to be fair, like Australia, Europe too, like you don't Europe, there was more shows, so it made it worthwhile. But yeah, it's like it's not cost effective to bring me to Australia. So
Okay, fair
I
enough.
didn't get to go. Yeah, it's really just cost. It's like, all right, if we think like even Europe, it was 50-50 if I was gonna go. But a big thing that A3 notices, and I mean it's proven true with Saint Motel, is when you have like a venue sell, is what they call it, or somewhere where someone who's not with the band is selling, the numbers are drastically different.
Hmm.
Whether or not people are good sellers, whatever, but there is a motivation for me to be transparent. I get a day rate, I also get tips, and I get a percentage of commission. So like there is a lot of incentive for me to sell. I also genuinely like, especially Saint Motel. It's like I love those guys. They're my boys. Like they're my friends now. If I'm winning, they're winning. When you have someone come in like Europe, every show is a different person selling. Europeans don't really necessarily know Saint Motel, so there's not like some big like fangirling like, oh, I'm gonna suffer these people. They don't care as much. So there is an incentive for that too. It's that I can kind of outsell the numbers sometimes based just because I care about the band.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that because, yeah, like, I mean, I had never heard of Saint Motel until my friend bought the tickets and then I went with her. But, like, obviously she loves them. And so she was super
Yeah.
excited. And so it's interesting to hear you say that a lot of people, they're less enthusiastic maybe in other countries. So, like, yeah, but they're still filling out shows. So, like,
Yeah,
are they well
for sure.
known or what's kind of the
I would
ratio?
say they're well same hotels, like you learn this so quickly. And and this is actually very encouraging because like I have a project coming out next year in music and stuff like that. But it's like it's actually really encouraging. It's like you can really be a big band that makes money and all that, and people still don't know who you are. Like there's more money than just being in an arena band, like just playing arenas. Like you can still make money. And so very like I know Saint Motel because I play the game FIFA, and their
Mhm.
big hit song "My Type" was on FIFA, and they had another song "Move" that was on FIFA. And so a lot of the FIFA community. So Europe, they do have a pool because FIFA is obviously a huge game over there. Soccer is huge. So like
Yeah.
they have that. So, but when I took people on Saint Motel, they're like, "Who?" And then you play "My Type," they're like, "Oh, I have heard that song." But at the
Okay.
same time, we're in LA selling at a 5,000 cap theater. So it doesn't
Yeah.
really necessarily if you know them. I've learned very quickly it's like all it cares about is the fans. Like that is what matters more than anything. So
Yeah. No, that is interesting though. But I'm curious as well about like the difference between kind of how the crowds behave. Like is there like a marked difference between like I don't want to mush all Europeans into one, but I don't know, the
no,
Germans versus US?
there where were we? Oh, there was one show we did in Europe. I distinctly remember. I just remember the show. I don't remember where it was. Again, when most of our shows were in Germany, so I feel like there's a high chance it was in Germany. But they listened very intently to like what the singer says. So he's like, "Everybody get down," and everybody got down. He was like, "What?" Like, okay, normally like maybe the front couple rows will get down, but like everybody in the place like knelt down. He was like, "Get up!" Everybody got up, and it was like I was like that again. Happy, just like I was in the back like doing merch shop. I looked up and like everybody is currently like down. It's crazy. I wish every crowd responded like that, but their
Yeah.
genre of music is also just a different crowd too. Like I also work a lot in country music. Like the vibes of the two crowds very different. Like yeah,
How I mean, how so?
like I think same hotel crowds are kinder,
Hmm.
and I think they're like more not respectful in like a bad way, but they're just a lot more introverted type people. Like kind of go to same hotel, which is totally fine, and they're great, and they treat me so well at the merch booth, and they're like diehards, and they're the kindest people. Country, they're also I want to say like they're mean, but you like I'll never forget we had a show in Boston and right across the street, Zach Top was having a show. I don't know if you listen to country music, but he's like the next big thing right now. And like our line is just everybody kind of like on their phones. So people are playing their Nintendo Switches and everybody's kind of like chilling, super quiet. The Zach Top line, people are like throwing beers to each other down the line. Hey, do you have a beer? And they're like, yeah, dude, here you go. Like throwing beers. They're partying. They're playing cornhole. Like It's a very, like they're just louder, a little, like, more fun, but they
Mhm.
also don't spend as much money on merch. So
Okay, interesting.
so at least the ones that I have worked for. I can't take a whole genre, but the
Yeah,
ones
yeah,
people
but
that
I
I
feel
have
like
worked for, like
it's like a big enough, sample size. I don't know, like,
yeah,
you'd think that the more people drink, the more that they would be willing to spend it on merch. Because I wasn't gonna buy a T-shirt until I had, like, 2 beers, so,
that's fair. But they
yeah.
also like blue collar people I think also have like a little less. Maybe like they're more money conscious than maybe like white collar. I don't know. That's making assumptions at that point, but
No,
you know
no,
what I
I
mean?
think I don't know, it's an interesting thing because I don't think going to see any musician is cheap nowadays, like,
Oh,
minimum, it's gonna be,
no.
like, $20 for a ticket on a cheap ticket, plus
Yeah.
beers, plus parking, plus, like and then the T-shirt too, like, I feel like there's no escaping
No.
paying a lot of money to go see an
Yeah.
artist, like, blue collar, white collar, whatever it is.
I would say I was never really like a merch person though
Yeah?
until like I mean sometimes I do. I've kind of been now. The other thing I never did, and it's like a new trend, is like tipping the merch person. I had never done that before. I didn't even know that was a thing, and I go to concerts all the time. So when I became a merch person, I felt really awkward at first. People do it. I mean, I was a barista for years. So I have no problem turning the iPad around and being like, "Hope you have a great day." Like it is what it is. But like I had no idea like that was even a thing, and that's coming from someone who I even before I worked in concerts, I was going to concerts all the time, and I
Mhm.
had no idea that that was like a thing. So now I tip too because what goes around comes around. I'm not going to be that.
I don't know, I feel like, I struggle with this because, like, obviously I'm American, so, like, I get tipping
Yeah,
culture, but, like, I don't like it. I'm like, "Just pay people enough to survive," and then, yeah, tipping wouldn't be, like, so
true.
everywhere. Like, I don't know, if I to me, buying a T-shirt is not a tippable service.
No. Now the only like so I don't ever engage in this. People be like, "Why do you deserve a tip?" And I'm like, "I genuinely, you don't have to tip me. That is what it is." Granted, I did spend 3 hours in a trailer organizing all this and counting everything and carrying it all in by myself. So you're only seeing me hand you a shirt. Not saying I deserve a tip. You do your own thing. I'm not gonna. If you don't tip me, I'm not gonna be like, "Screw you, guys." Like, yep, have our own lives, our own finances. Do whatever you want. But there is a lot that goes into it, and for my job, and everyone kind of knows this isn't like unknown information. I kinda make more money than most of the crew, and maybe even some of the band members as a merch guy because of the tips.
Really?
Yes.
So, like, on a typical night, like, let's say a good night, a medium night, and a bad night, how much are you, like, clearing?
Whew, good night and tips. I've made 1,000.
Oh my god, on, like,
Yeah,
merch table tips.
yeah. I had several nights in the spring tour in the bigger cities where I was making, like, over 1,000 a night, and it was really nice.
Surely, like, nobody in Germany put
Oh,
anything
nobody in Europe tipped. I stopped even asking. Like, I knew I lived there when I was a kid. I know how things work. I didn't even try. I lost like, I definitely did not make because my day rate is consistent, like, it's fine, but it's not like without the tips, it's really nothing to write home about. So I was like, I was going to Europe more for the experience more than I knew I was going to make money.
Yeah, yeah, fair.
So, and
But
then like
also, I guess
the fall tour though, like I didn't even come close to those numbers. Like I was lucky if I made 200 in the spring, but we were in different markets. So
mhm.
it is what it is. It really, it goes like this, but,
No, no, but that's, like, I don't know, that's something really interesting to me. Yeah, I never would have thought of that, but yeah, that's
and then some
insane. But
people
even,
don't
like
make tips. A big thing is like when you get to like the larger artists, because arena artists, they're not like you're gonna have multiple merch booths, so you're obviously gonna you need volunteers or you're paying local people to come do the merch, but you get like a percentage of gross.
Mhm.
So I know a lot of merch people, I don't know what their day rate is, but they get like 5%. But if you're doing an arena show, you're making $25 a head, 25 times 8,000, and then you get 5% of that is not bad
Don't
at
ask
all.
me, can't do that math in my
I
head.
can't do math in my head either, but it is like you're clearing several grand a night. So
So, is it true that, I guess, bands are making the most money on merch, or not always? Like, where do
people
bands
need to
make the
buy
money?
merch. Merch cuts are ridiculous. Europe wasn't so bad. We weren't playing like any huge venues where they cared about that, but venues take like 25% sometimes.
Of the merch?
Yeah, it's
That is
ridiculous.
crazy.
Like I'm writing checks for several thousand, like double digit thousands sometimes.
Wow, that is nuts. So, like, do you also then have to handle, like, all the inventory, all the money, all the,
I handle
like
inventory, money. Thankfully, with the company I work for, they kind of are keeping watch on the big numbers, and
Mhm.
they're really good at being like, "Hey, it looks like you're low on this. Just double check." Yeah, okay, we'll send that to you. because we get
Okay.
shipments in throughout in the US, we get shipments in throughout the tour as needed.
Okay, interesting. So is there like one company that does, I guess, merch for like tons of bands, or is it just a
Yeah,
regular
so my
t-shirt?
company I work for is A3. They're on the
Mhm.
newer side of, like, companies, but, like, they're crushing it. They got artists, but I would say, like, the big one that everybody knows is Future Shirts. I feel like they do every artist, but
No, but this is a whole industry I didn't even know existed because it's specific to like music artists and tours and like
yeah,
getting the t-shirts and stuff out to the people during
yeah,
the tour.
yeah.
Huh.
So
Interesting.
even, like, we have logistics people, it's like, even now, I'm at the e-com warehouse. I typically am going to, like, the main warehouse, packing the trailer before we leave on tour. Like, they have 2 warehouses, A3 does, so like I said, they have the e-com, then they have the tour warehouse. Then, yeah, they have people with, like, the account reps, so they're the ones who are talking to, like, management, being like, "Hey, what do we want?" Then you have the creative team who sends out designs and the band's management approves, like, the merch company, like, there's so much more to it than just the road side, like being a road dog, like, so much
Wow.
goes into, like, the merch, it's crazy.
And how many, I guess then I'm wondering like so how many people are actually working at A3? Like is it a really
I have
large?
no idea. I've never even been to this office until today, because
Okay,
'cause I'm
but
always
there's
just on the
multiple
road.
offices.
Yeah, so, like, they have offices here. This is, like, their main office space, and then e-com warehouse is where I'm at today. I've heard of it. I knew it existed. I never had been here until today, just because 'cause I'm always touring, so there's no reason for me to ever come here.
But then I guess because you already have to know, yeah, I guess what comes first? Like you get the job at A3 and then you kind of like are trying to network within the different bands that you actually like, or is
Oh,
it
no,
like they
A3
kind of
puts you places.
okay.
Yeah.
So have you
So,
ever
like,
been put somewhere that you were like, "Oh, I don't like this," or "It's not my music," or
I mean, not your music, you learn to appreciate, like, all the different genres genuinely. Like, there are some people I'm like, "Ah, this isn't really my thing," but then you get to know them, you're like, "Ah, you know what? They're doing their thing, like, cool, you appreciate stuff." I haven't had honestly, I've had more horror stories on the not merch side of just, like, working with bands. I'm like, "That was miserable." But A3, it's
without
like,
saying the name of the band, like
no.
what counts as a miserable experience? Like what happened?
When you're just treated poorly, people, like, disrespect you or just they just don't respect like, I know I'm, like, whether I'm tour managing merch, I know I'm not, like, in the band, so I'm like, there's a level of, like, I know I'm a roadie, so you know your place, but there's also, like, you could, like, look me in the eyes and say hello sort of thing or not cuss me out for something that doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
There's things like that. I don't like I said, I know my place. I'm not trying to, like, "What? You don't, like, talk to me every day?" Because some artists, you don't ever even see them. They're just on their bus the whole time. It is what it is. You do your thing, I do my thing. It's just when we do interact, let's be kind.
Yeah.
Unless I deserve to be yelled at, then I'm totally fine. Like, if I mess up, yeah, it is totally fine to be mad at me. I get that. But if I didn't mess up or do anything bad, let's just have a good time.
Yeah. No, that's
I'm very
fair.
pro taking responsibility for my actions. Like, if you cool,
Yeah.
my bad. But yeah,
But do you think I'm curious though, like because you've used the word like roadie, and when I think of roadies, I think of like the 1970s, and they're following around somebody in like a bus, and like they're not getting
those
like
are
paid.
groupies. I would say those are groupies
Those are group. Okay. So what
based on
is
like a roadie. I view like at least in Nashville, a roadie is just like anybody who does anything that's not in the band. Like, yeah,
okay?
road dog, roadie,
Okay,
like,
interesting. I've
yeah.
never thought about that before. And then because you were touring so many months this year, what is that like as far as because you said yourself you just moved to a new city and you're like trying to get used to it, and then it's kind of like you're
Yeah,
gone for months on end.
yeah. Um, yeah, that's something literally me and my wife talk about this all the time because it's like there's so much stuff like I want to do in Nashville. It's like I love being involved. Like my wife works for a nonprofit here in town, so like I love like helping out and volunteering at that. Like so many things I love to do, but also need to make money and go on tour. You kind of like I'm very extroverted, so tour's good, but there is a level of like I've been home for 2 weeks now. It was, and then yeah, then last week was like the first week I've really been able to just like take a deep breath. So it's been nice to like not be around people for a little bit other than my wife and just like chill, play my Xbox, play some music, like no pressure. It's nice to also be working today. So like, there's always vacation only lasts so long, but it was nice to like take a deep breath and not do that. But
Mhm,
you really just have to find like you have to search it out. It's not going to find you. I think that's anything in life. Like if you want something, you have to go get it.
mhm.
And in a fast paced environment, especially like Nashville, it's like no one, everybody is busy. Everybody's busy here. Like this is a town built on tourism and the music industry. So
Yeah.
like everybody's always like my phone, the amount of phone tags I have of like, hey dude, you want to grab coffee? Hey, I'm out this week. Then the next week it's like, hey dude, I'm back in town. You want to grab coffee? Sorry, dude, I'm out. Like that's just how the town works. It's just how we're all doing. And so you
Yeah.
always have to be intentional. And I think in life that's just a good thing to be. It's just intentional. But like you can easily isolate yourself. And I know that's why like mental health for roadies and stuff is like a big deal. It's something that's coming to light a lot lately. I know my algorithm probably has it more than everybody else, but been some really good like podcasts and reviews with people about like burnout, isolation, like depression, like all of those things. And it's really because that's something that's coming to more to light in that industry. But
To me, I feel like it would be very strange going from city to city every day because like some days I feel like like looking at the tour schedule for Saint Motel, I was like, man, they don't even get to see these places in every case. Like even the day that I met you in Berlin, we were like, what'd you do? And you were like, I had to run errands, basically. You had to
yeah,
like go find
that
some
was a
charger or
crazy
something.
day. That was the Uber that drove on the sidewalk. That was a crazy time.
That's how that story too is like the most un-German experience I have ever heard
It
anyone.
was nuts. Like, I literally for a second, like, I grew up in Africa and I was like, this is the most West African moment I've had since living in Africa. Like, up on the sidewalk, driving, like, honking at people. I was like, whoa, this is like a flashback to not Germany, but I'll take
Yeah.
it. I got to where I needed to go.
Hey, as long as
Everybody
you
was
got where you
like,
needed.
James, you weren't scared and tell him to stop. I'm like, listen, if I want to get to point A to point B, I don't really care how I get there. I'm very nonchalant. I live on a bus and my life is in a bus driver's hands all the time. So that will be fine.
Yeah. Is there any city though that you're kind of like, man, I've been there, but I wish I could have seen it?
Ooh, I feel like myself, I do a very good job of going out in a city. Part of it's just my job makes it slightly easier. I kind of first 2, 3 days of tour, I'm pretty busy. And then once my routine, everything gets pretty organized. I get my boxes all kind of sorted in the trailer. I do a really good job of like, one, I'm a huge coffee guy. Like coffee is my favorite thing. Like was a barista for years. Would love to open a coffee shop someday. Like love coffee. So I do like I intentionally like wake up most of the time. I can't say this is all the time. Sometimes I'm just exhausted and I sleep all the way until load in. But I typically wake up like 2 hours before load in. I go for a walk. I find a coffee shop and then go do load in. And then what after load in, that takes me what 12 to 2:30, sometimes 3. 3 o'clock hits. If I'm tired, take like an hour nap. But then I call my wife and I just go on a long walk. Like I literally will walk and I'll just see what's in the city, thrift stores, all that. I try to make sure I look up places that aren't like touristy either. Like I just want to see like the actual city. I don't necessarily want to see the tourist traps.
Was there
And
any
then
city
just
that kind of surprised you more than another one then as you were just walking through? You're like, this is nice.
I'd have to look at my tour schedule again. I will say like on this last leg, and the tour manager did such a good job for this. Have you ever been to Maine?
I haven't, but I hear it's nice.
Portland, Maine, like 2 years ago on my first ever tour, I did a show there. And that was one of those days where I was just like so busy, barely got to see the city, got like one lobster roll and was like, dang, I wish I had more time here. So we'll use that. Fast forward then just this past month, we had a day off, show day, and another day off in Portland, Maine. The amount of oysters and walks and just greatness that I enjoyed in those 3 days, it was awesome. Like so refreshing. It was fall. It was like perfect weather. Like
Mhm,
food was amazing. Like the drinks were amazing. The coffee was good. The vibes were just like immaculate.
mhm.
10 out of 10.
I feel like I don't know, that's kind of a vibe too, where like someone else is picking where you're traveling, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is a surprise, cool spot.
Yeah. There's a song called Van Horn that Same Motel has. It is about Van Horn, Texas. I've been to Van Horn, Texas. That was the very first day off, second day off. First day off I had with St. Motel. We literally like left Nashville. The next day before the show, we went a day early and we got to get like a private tour of NASA. That was cool. But the next after the show and that show, we had a day off in Van Horn. There was nothing. It was one gas station, one Mexican restaurant, and nothing but one hotel on a road. That was in the days like that where you're like, yeah, this
You're
is
like, ah,
so.
touring's fun.
Those days on like the back end of tour are nice because then you're like forced to be lazy. So you're like, oh, cool, I'm not missing anything. You just sleep all day.
Yeah.
But like when it's like the fourth day of tour, you're like, I have energy still. Why can't we be somewhere? I have the energy. Let us go somewhere cool.
Yeah. Well, I remember I was asking you about that too when we were talking at the merch station, and you were saying though that you did plan like I might be misremembering this, but your wife went to London to meet you
Yes,
on the tour, and you got, like, a
yes,
proper holiday, right? Or
yes, yes. So she came to the last show. We had finished in London. Then we spent like 6 days in London, and that was awesome. And then
nice.
it involved a chaotic, honestly horrible trip to Liverpool to go see a
What
soccer
happened?
game. The soccer game, like the reason we went to Liverpool, 10 out of 10. Awesome experience. The getting there and then getting back, absolutely miserable. It was just like one of those things where just like thing after thing just kept happening and there's nothing we could do about it. And you're just like, well, won't forget this story, you know? And what nothing that was like, oh, I hate England. It was just like literally just like the most road like wanted to get a gas car because I hate electric cars for long trips. They didn't have any. Got an electric car. The electric car almost died multiple times, and there was like traffic, and then it was just miserable. But the actual soccer game, cried, lived my dream of seeing Liverpool play at Anfield. So it was awesome.
Nice.
And then London itself, I need to go back there. Like we had an absolute blast. That might be my favorite city I've ever been to in my life.
Wow. I feel like but then also because I'm wondering too if the agitations are though, because you like kind of work in like some sort of like logistics adjacent path. And so it's like when, I don't know, you can't get the car you want or you can't get the like all the logistical stuff isn't
That
working,
is,
like
yeah,
extra
yeah.
irritating,
Because
maybe.
the other job that I like to do is tour managing. And that's all like booking flights for people, getting rental cars, making sure everybody gets from point A to point B, like hotels, all that. So I do kind of like logistics that. But yeah, but London, not 10. I do need to give Berlin a second chance. I think we're on the wrong side of Berlin, from what I heard.
Yeah. I mean,
Because
there's
everyone
not
told me
really,
Berlin was like so awesome, and I walked around trying to find where the awesome was, and everybody kept telling me I was on the wrong side.
yeah. I mean, where specifically that, that venue was is just not, it's just boring. It's super boring, to walk
That
around there.
is
So
a problem with a lot of venues. I don't
really.
know if you ever like even in Philly, where the like I love Philly. That's where I'm originally from, like the Philadelphia area. I love it there. But the House of Blues? No, the Fillmore is in the middle of like a bad part of town. Like you don't really necessarily want to like go there on your own.
Mhm.
Like you would never go there if you weren't going for a concert. Like nobody would be like, "Yes, that's where you need to go in Philly." So sometimes, like when you're on tour and you don't know those things, like you wake up and when you get off the bus, you're like, "Hmm, this is an interesting spot," and then you realize like, "Oh, I need to Uber 20 minutes into town, then you get somewhere good."
Yeah. But that's why it's kinda hard too, like, yeah, it's hard to get an idea of a city, like, when you're there for
Yeah,
such a short time, and then you're like,
yeah,
"Oh, wait, where this is ugly," but then in reality, it's like
yeah,
you just didn't get to see the other part.
yeah. I will say like touring gave me more respect for the West Coast. It's so expensive to live there, but like California is one of the cool. Like it has everything from beaches to mountains to like I'm surprised there's not a rainforest there. Like it has everything there. Like absolutely gorgeous. Or like Montana, like all those places that like you don't typically go because it's kind of expensive. Like just go to Montana. I've got to go to
Mhm.
Montana like 5 times this year, and it was like every time I'm like so gorgeous. Like when you're
What's
always
the
in
mon
cities, you're like, oh, there's so many people. Like there's no open space. There's nothing. And then you like go to Montana on tour. You're like driving, and you're like, ah, there is still land around that exists. Yes, not everything is a city. Bozeman, Missoula, and Billings is kind of where I was. I went to Bozeman 3 times and then Billings and Missoula once.
was that, with one of the country artists, or was that with Same Motel?
Saint Motel was the I went to Saint Motel once, Nico Moon once, Chase Rice once, Clint Black once. Maybe it was only 4 times. I'm missing somebody. I've been there 4 or 5 times. Not like that.
Yeah. Do you find, like, I don't know, people in smaller towns have I don't know, this is just my anecdotal experience, but I feel like people in smaller towns or with the exception of, like, the Midwest, like, I used to live in Chicago, and I was like, "These people can drink because they have winter." So, like, I don't know, like, is it more rowdy, like, bigger party at a concert kind of vibe,
I want to
or
say
is it
I think it's maybe slightly more rowdy, but also those people they don't necessarily have like tons of concerts coming through all the time. So it is a weird dynamic. 'Cause I feel like sometimes there's a lot of people who don't even know the band, but they're just like, oh, there's something going on. Let's go.
yeah.
But yeah, they're always super good time. And then people always give you like good recommendations. And you're always like, I will remember that for next time. Because people give you recommendations at night and you're like, well, I leave literally tonight. So next time I'm here, I will have to check that out.
There needs to be, like, some sort of, yeah, well, I don't know, I was about to be like, there needs to be, like, some sort of app for that. People can, like, provide you with recommendations beforehand, but then I was like, you know, you could just Google it. That's kind
That's
of
your
safe.
Google reviews. Yelp.
Yeah. Yelp, that exists. Cool, cool
Yeah.
idea, me. Um But you as well, in addition to all the touring, you actually make your own music, is that right?
I
Or
do. Yes, I have nothing out right now. I deleted everything to kind of give myself a clean slate. But yes,
what made you
I'm
delete everything?
it's nice. Wasn't well produced, and I was like, once I moved to town, I was like, I need to make sure I don't know. When you come somewhere and everything's good, you kind of like, well, that stuff wasn't gonna get me. It didn't get me anywhere anyway. So what's the point of keeping it up? So I just kind of scrubbed it, and we're gonna like restart fresh.
Okay, so what's
Yeah,
what's the vibe then there?
country rock kind of vibes.
Okay.
So yeah, I feel yeah. I'm kind of working on two different sets of things, so I might have my main project and a side project, honestly, at this point. But
But
we'll
what's
cross that.
so, like, talk to me explain to me like I'm 5, like, do you write your
Yeah,
own songs? Do you
I
produce your
write
own
my own
songs? What
songs. I write my own songs. Like I grew up, I love pop punk, and then more recently, I've really started. Not recently, like since I moved to Nashville, I say in the last like 10 years, ever since I moved to Florida 10 years ago, country music really like spoke to me, especially growing up in church. There's a lot of similarities in like songwriting structure to country music, Christian music, all of that, and so I just like it all depends on my mood. That's why I have like pop punk, rocky kind of stuff in country. Country is like when I'm really just like in my feels, kind of like that's where the country music kind of comes and like writing about life experience. But then when I'm just like, what would sound good at a concert? I get in the rock mood and just start like jamming out, playing guitar. 'Cause I play guitar, so like anything with a good guitar, like that gets me going. And so we'll see. Might blend some of it. Might there's it's 2025. There's no reason you can't do multiple things. Kind of find your own sound, create something new. We'll see how this all turns out when everything's said and done. But yeah, I'm just like writing songs about life, just
is that
going
something
through a
that you
lot of
can
life changes, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to that in their 20s. So
true. Do you feel like you actually can find time to do that while you're on the road, or is that something that you have to do when you, like, go home and you're like, "Okay, I have time to be creative?"
when I'm on the road, if I'm self conscious about it, I make time. You can easily get in the habit of just like, oh, you kind of just get in the routine of stuff. But one of the reasons I do really enjoy doing merch is that I do have time to like be creative and just like there's some jobs where you really just don't have time. And it's just like, I mean, you're doing your work, like it is what it is. But as someone who wants to write music, and that's like my end goal of moving here and doing this whole industry is to do that. It's really nice to have a job where I can make time to like write. Play I bring a guitar out with me, play songs, just like even if I'm not writing, to just at least take time to play my guitar is still good instead of having a month of not playing my guitar.
Mhm.
Like that as still healthier for me than just not playing guitar for a month, especially like for
Yeah.
my mental health. I like just like lock the back lounge, play my guitar for like an hour. And even that, it's enough to keep my brain still in a space that's like good. Cause I very much like once I'm in a creative space, it's very good. We're chilling. But then like if I put out that fire too much, like, oh, working, gives me like a week before I get it back. Like I've been home for 2 weeks. Maybe 2 days ago, I finally started getting ideas and stuff again. Finally, I'm like, all right, here we go. Now we're gonna start cooking. Working tomorrow, Wednesday, I'll probably sit down. I have a bunch of ideas on my phone. We'll kind of see what comes up from it. Working on some co-writes in January, all that. So
Mhm. But, yeah, I mean, I think people do underestimate the need I don't know, maybe it's, like, an American thing, I think, too, that, like, we underestimate the need for rest and, like, sometimes, like, just not doing anything for a few days can result in,
yeah,
like, kind of a creative boost.
yeah. I'll never forget. I do miss my like Wednesdays off of school when I was in France when I was a kid. That was pretty sick. That was awesome. Monday, Tuesday.
Wednesdays off.
Yeah,
Wait, let's back up there because you mentioned I remember this as well. You mentioned that you grew up in West Africa,
I did.
and it's
Yeah,
like I don't have the details on that. Now you're throwing France in the mix. What was going on?
yeah.
What
So
was the childhood?
I was a missionary kid, and so when I was like in 5th grade, my family was like, "We're gonna move to Africa." But prior to that, where we were moving, we moved to Togo. I grew up in Togo, West Africa. They spoke French there. Obviously, me and my family did not speak French, and so my parents went to a language school in France in Abbeville, which is like in the Savoy region, kind of near Italy, in the mountains. Freaking gorgeous, gorgeous, love it there. And so when they were in language school, I went to French public school. Me and my siblings all went to French public school. So
In West Africa or in,
in France, in France. In France. Went there for a year and a half. Parents learned French, and then I moved to Africa after that. And I was homeschooled in Africa, but I was seeing my friends playing soccer, all that. They spoke French, so
and how's your French now?
I understand everything still. So that's really good. My speaking, I mean, when I was in Paris, I was very happy with myself because I was like, this is gonna be a very humbling experience. Slang, I don't do well with slang just because when you're not, I mean, I was the same way coming from Africa back to America. It's just like if you're not in a culture, you don't know the slang terms they use. So there's levels like I don't know the slang terms, but I can still listen to someone talk and be like, this is what they said. Speaking, I got to get going. Then the wheels start turning. It's not perfect like it once was, but I
Mhm.
can still get my point across perfect. That I understand everything, which I think is probably more important. I'd much rather understand and be able to like piece together my sentences than just be like, I have no idea what you said.
Yeah,
But you don't
yeah.
take 10 years, 8 years, 8 years, 8 years of just listening to a language. I was like literally living it for 8 years of my life and very developmental years. Ooh, that was hard. So yeah, but yeah, I was very thankful when we went to France, like Quebec, when we go to like Montreal and all those places. It's cool because we at the merch booth that I can just talk French and it's like saves me time.
Yeah. No, I think, I don't know, though well, what's your experience then with, like, Montreal French versus, like, French
Oh, it's
French?
very different. Montreal people would disagree with me. The problem is I also speak African French at this point. So
Okay.
I wouldn't even say like I went from like French to African French, but I feel like the accent is the equivalent to like if you don't really know a language and the first person you ever talked English to was from like the deep Alabama,
Mhm.
I give them like a very like redneck kind of sound, and like that's my view of like Montreal. So you kind of have to
Okay.
like just adjust and be like, "How-" so Montreal gives me one or two people, and then I'm like, okay, now we're cruising. But that was even
Yeah,
the
that's
case when
kind of
I
like
lived in France and I was at my prime. I was like, what? And they also use Old French, which is why Quebec's like France is ruining their French. Well, they also use phrases in Quebec that they don't use in France, and there's also phrases they use in Africa that they don't use in France.
yeah. And then
So
it's always this question of I feel like people are arguing over, is it a preserved language? Should it be preserved? And I'm like,
yeah,
languages change over time.
exactly.
That's how they work.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then I don't speak Ewe, but my brother, my little brother, he speaks Ewe, which was like the local language of where we lived in Africa. But he was at that weird age when we got to Africa where none of his friends spoke French yet. So
Mhm.
he was like, just add that, just when you want to talk to your friends, you gotta learn how to talk to them somehow. So there's
Yeah.
no formal training, but he was able to speak Ewe just so he could talk to his friends and all that. I was old
So
enough that everybody my age already spoke it, so I wasn't really like forced to. I could understand if someone was talking about me, and I could be like, "What y'all saying?" I could never actually like hold a conversation though.
so from what age though were you actually there?
10 to 18.
10 to 18. Oh, okay. So you were like
Yeah.
proper like a developed
Yeah. Yeah.
teenager.
Yeah.
Okay. And was that like a I don't know, what was kind of the initial thought when you were, a kid and you like arrived there and you're like, all right, this is different.
France was weird. I think I was more homesick in France than I was in Africa. I
Hmm.
feel like you probably understand this, but like Europe is so similar but different.
Yeah.
So it's just different enough to like throw you off. And then also, on all fairness to like 9.5, 10-year-old James, moved to France. I didn't even speak French at that point. So I was just like, we arrived in France on the 28th of December, so like right after Christmas, and I started school on the 2nd of January. So there was no like, and I just am like, hello, I knew how to say Je m'appelle James. My name is James. I know how to say where's the bathroom. That's all I had. So like, there was a little more culture shock there. I think Africa, when I arrived there, knowing that that was the end goal, like even though it is so drastically like there's not even I people are like, what's it like? It's just I'm like, I can't even like I still to this day can't really articulate the differences. Like it's just so vastly different. But because in my brain, even as a kid, like Togo was like always the end goal. I just felt like I was at home because I was like, oh, all of that like learning French and leaving our family. Now we're here where we're supposed to be. We're home. And I've always
Hmm.
kind of felt that way about even the continent in general. Like my family for a while, they just moved back to the States, but they were living in Zambia. And
Hmm.
like even though Zambia is not where I grew up, I still like have a piece of like just like when I'm just there, it's just like a very peaceful, like I just home over there.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, it is. I find that question really, really hard because, yeah, I've lived in a bunch of different countries. And, yeah, whenever somebody's like, what's your favorite? I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know. There's
Yeah.
just no,
The
no way to
thing
answer that.
the thing is too is like Togo, there's no tourist sites there. Nobody goes to Togo. Like if I lived in South Africa, you'd be like, oh, the surfing. Like there's no reason anybody would ever go to Togo. People are like, should we visit? No. Well, I thought you said you love it. I do. I have friends there. I grew up there. Like I do love it. It is home. Nobody should ever just go visit there. I mean, you can if you want. Have a great time. Sure. But there's nothing really of like other than the fact that I have friends and a lot of life experience and I just like live my life there. there's nothing else about Togo that's great other than the fact that I grew up there.
Yeah. Well, I remember I think we talked about this too when because I did Peace Corps in Tonga,
Mm,
and the running joke is that the Peace Corps office in Tonga in the South Pacific and the Peace Corps office in Togo in Africa, they get their mail the mail switches.
nice,
So like
nice.
families will be sending like yeah, mail to the Peace Corps and like it just arrives to the wrong one and then you have to wait like
Yeah,
6 months for something to like get shipped over from one to the other.
yeah.
But also, yeah, I was that dumb person, like, when I opened up my assignment for Tonga, I looked at it and I was like, "Oh, sweet, I'm going to Africa." My best friend was like, "You're an idiot, you are not."
That's funny.
And yeah, I
Yeah,
wanted to go to Togo, but apparently
yeah.
apparently not.
But to kind of bring it back to the topic, I think all that travel and stuff is why I like touring so much.
Yeah.
And
I think
because it's just like my whole life has been displaced from place to place.
Mhm.
And so like I enjoy meeting people. I love just like traveling. I think there is a level of just being okay with change that you have to be with the tour.
Yeah. But did you always have? Because like, now you have, like, a firm home base, like, you have your family in
Yeah.
Nashville, you said you got a baby on the way, like,
Yeah.
so I guess how has that kind of changed over time for you? Like, did you always have this, like, home base, or was it, like, for a while there, you were just flying by the seat of your pants, or what was kind
I
of the
in my touring life I've always had the home base here. I always thought that once I got married I was never gonna tour. I always thought that that was just like gonna be like what kind of closed that door for good. And but instead, I got blessed with, like, the most amazing wife, and she is the most supportive, and, like, we're out here just chasing dreams together, and it's, like, a beautiful thing. But, yeah, I've always just been, like this is the longest since I've been an adult that I've lived in one place. I feel like I've always just been, like, about that 2-year mark, go move somewhere else, 2-year mark, move somewhere else. That's just kinda how my life has been. I think the biggest change is that it's made me appreciate home,
Mhm,
and, like, I don't wanna pack up and leave. Like, I like the well, 1, I like the community we're building. I'm, like, I mean, 3 years is a long time, but you're finally, like, building community. I know people, like, that's nice. But then on top of that, it's like I travel so much, it's like, I just wanna be home. I wanna be present when I'm home. And so I think that's created a cool thing of just like, let's build a life, let's just settle down, and yeah. And even when it's all said and done, it's like, I don't know how long if music doesn't work like, if the music side of things doesn't work out, I don't know how long I'm gonna be a roadie. Like, I feel like it's kinda like working for the man in a way. It's like there's gonna become a point, especially when you have we wanna have multiple kids, so, life changes, and you can't be mad when life changes. That's just literally how life works. It's like you go through seasons. And in this current season, I'm having an absolute blast.
mhm,
And I don't know when that end is coming. Like, and I don't see it. People's like, oh, in 2 years, I'm going to be done. I'm only just now starting to see the fruits of my labor of grinding in Nashville. I went from a year and a half ago trying to find a job, couldn't get a job for 6 months to now people call me. So like we're already seeing fruits of the labor of what that grind looks like. And it is a 10-year town in Nashville. They call it the 10-year town. Like nothing
mhm,
happens here overnight. It is all about just like nose to the ground, do the dirty work, and like be kind, be a good hang. And you're
mhm.
gonna like see the fruits of that. And so it's cool to be in a spot like that and just be able to be like, all right, I'm gonna work, be on the road, but then I come home and it's just like the consistency of I'm home. Like I like that consistency. It's like I come home, boom, all right, this is how home works. Then I can
Yeah,
go through the chaos. Like the road is for the chaos. I love the chaos. My ADHD thrives in the chaos. Like give me chaos. But then when I'm home, it's like, all right, I love this. Like let me play my Xbox, hang out with my wife, go on dates, go to coffee shops, hang out with friends. It's like that's
yeah.
what I want.
No, but I mean, I don't know, I think it's an interesting way to sum that up that, yeah, the reason you probably enjoy touring so much is just because of the constant change and the constant travel, and so, like, that is yeah, that has kind of an influence on, yeah, just the way that you wanna live, but I
Yeah,
definitely can see, I don't know, I'm curious kinda how yeah, how it will go with kids, but then once they're a bit older, maybe they wanna tour too,
yeah.
so who knows?
I always I always tell people 'cause people are like, "How are you gonna tour with the kid?" 'Cause unless you're in Nashville, everybody's like, "How are you gonna tour with the kid?" I think one of the beautiful things about moving like, if you wanna tour, a beautiful thing about moving to somewhere that people consider, like, a hub for touring, whether that's if you're on the pop side, that's more LA, I guess New York. If you're more hip hop, you wanna move to Atlanta. But Nashville kinda like the central spot for touring. I think a beautiful thing is that it's so normal here that my wife has even good community of people who tour who have families and it works. I feel
Mhm,
like what's always portrayed is like the dude who goes around and cheats on his wife and he's on the road. I think that's what people always like see. It's like all this partying and drinking and debauchery and like all this stuff. And it's like, and so when people are like, wait, you're leaving your wife and kid to go on the road. and even like, I mean, not there are camps like that. I'm not going to say that there aren't bands and camps who do that. If I was on a camp like that, though, that's not my vibe. I'd be like, all right, we're gonna peace out from this. I don't need to surround myself with this. There's plenty of good people on the road too. But I
Mhm.
think being in a town where it's like the CEO of the nonprofit my wife works for, he toured for 30 years, and he has a family, has a wife. He's an awesome guy.
Mhm.
My wife's supervisor at work, her dad toured her whole life, and he's a great guy, and they have a great family. Like, so the examples of touring and families working is so prevalent around here.
So, do you feel that since you moved to Nashville, then was there judgment before and now there's less, or
I wouldn't even say judgment. I think the people who truly know James, there was not like a surprise of like, oh my goodness, James is going to go on tour. Like, my parents have known my entire life that I've always wanted to attempt this touring thing. So there was like no surprise. The people who maybe, especially like having worked at a church for my whole life, there is a level of people who don't really like truly know you. And it's like, I'm going to go on the road. It's like, oh, James is gonna go do drugs. And it's like that. No, no, that's not. No. Like it truly, and I think one thing for this pod, just to point out, like working on the road is a job. Like people like it is fun. It is a
Mhm.
job. But there are like everybody on the road is doing a job. Like there is a level of like with when you were saying Motel, you actually have days off on the road. That's fun. A lot of Nashville touring's weekend warrior where you're home Monday through Wednesday. But then you get on a bus and it's like you go to city, work, home, work, home. It's like
Mhm.
it's not all like it's fun. I love it. It is a blast. It's the one job where you can stay up to 3, wake up at noon, nobody bats an eye. Like, it's great. Like today was the first day I've woke up before 8 a.m. in 7 months. So, like,
Pretty good.
I like that. I'm not a morning person. It's great. So there are perks, just like any job. But I do think people like it is a job. And at the
Mhm.
end of the day, like we're all doing a job.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
all fun and games all the time.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like you said, I imagine that, yeah, it's 1,000 times better when like you do end up with a band that you really like, or you either like their music or they're just nice people, and
Yeah.
you actually get to have that connection. Have you kind of stayed friends with, either bands or people or just from the tours that
Yeah.
also live in Nashville, or?
This is that's always like a weird not with the crew. Within the crew, I'm friends with most of the people I still work with. And even if we don't hang out all the time, I check in at least to make sure, hey, you doing good? And if we see each other like literally the other day I was at line for a Band Camino concert and the lighting director from Nico, who I haven't seen in like a year and a half, he was like walking. I was like, hey, how are you? And we talked for a little bit, caught it. So like,
Mhm.
there's that. Keeping up with like artists and band, I think that's just like a different vibe because although you're all living together and working together, I feel like 20 is the only job where like you kind of like live with your boss. And
Okay.
so you're always trying to figure out that line, and every artist is different. So like I said, I've literally worked with artists where I've saw the artist one time.
Mhm.
So like, and that's their prerogative. Like I'll use this because there's a great example. Clint Black, he's a '90s country star, literally 13 number ones. So like, but he's like almost 60 now. Everybody band has their own bus, crew has their own bus. He has his own bus. He's been doing it so long. Like I'm the merch guy. I filled in for like an entire month. I talked to him twice. But he was super nice all the time. It wasn't like he wasn't doing it out of like, I'm a dick. No, he just was like, I've been doing this so long. He talks to his wife, songwrites, all that. He does on the bus.
Yeah.
And there was like nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Sometimes when you're on the bus with the artist, it's always like, where's that line of like what Joe like, but you quickly learn. Like it sounds bigger deal than it's like you learn it. Like you're not gonna tour long if you don't have social aptitude to be able to be like read the room. If you can't read the room, you're not gonna tour very long.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean,
Like,
you did mention earlier when we started talking, you were like kind of like figuring out your place on the tour. And like, I don't know, it sounds very
yeah.
hierarchical and like an
Oh,
interesting
it
mix.
is. Like it's little things like it ended up not being a huge deal, but it was kind of frustrating. It's like some dude who never toured same hotel. I get on the bus. He knows this. So if you listen to this podcast, bro, you know who I'm talking. I'm talking about you, Rob. I walk in and he was in my bunk. And I changed bunks and like it but that first initial because I didn't know the guy. He had never toured with us. And I'm like, that's my bunk, dude. But it was late at
But
night.
did
He
he
was
know?
like kind of asleep.
Did
Yes,
he
he
know that
just
that was
he
yours?
did. He did. But again, he was like, I figured you wouldn't mind swapping. Because typically the bunk he swapped me with people do kind of like bottom bunks. I like top or middle. I don't like crawling all the way to get on the bottom. So like
Okay.
but again, I'm friends
Wait,
with
wait,
him now
wait.
and we
No, this
joked
is,
about it.
I
But
do want to dig into this for a second because this happened a couple weeks ago in my old company's office. There was this, I was new. I came
Yep.
in, I asked, I was like, "Hey, can I sit here? Does anyone sit here?" Then I was told, "Yeah, yeah, you can sit here. It's no problem. We have hot desks. Like nobody has assigned seats." And then
Yeah.
apparently my friend who was also at that same Motel show, they were like seething for like a week because I was sitting in this other lady's seat. And I didn't know. I had no idea that it was
Yeah.
actually not, in fact, hot desking. It was really unofficially
Yeah.
someone's seat. So like in the case of this bunk bed, was it like a hot desk kind of situation or
I jokingly made it a hot desk thing and we like ribbed on him. I really like give it like 2 days. I was like, whatever. Like, it's not like it was like that wasn't a big enough deal for me to be like, oh, get out of my bunk. Like I said, he was like, do you want me to move? And it was late at night, and I was like, whatever. Like, whatever. It is what it is. But there's like weird things like you do like for that particular camp. I'm just a merch guy, so I wouldn't say I have like a ton of clout. But at that point, I've gone already 5 months with these guys, so I was like, and we brought in like a kind of a new crew for that last part of the tour. So I was like, but again, not a big deal. But
no,
you
but
have
what
to know,
was
like, if you're going to a new gig for the first time, it's like, you know, you're not going to get the best bunk. Like, you're not going to go in, like, you will never, if you're on the first day on a gig, be like, I want a middle bunk. If you have the clout, you must have to have the best name, like the biggest name in management to be able to walk in and be like, I'm going to take a middle bunk. Like, that is a prized possession.
okay.
So, like you kind of know that going in. Like, I know if I get a new gig next year with a band that's not Same Motel,
But
am I gonna get top
what was
bunk?
this
Probably. Yeah.
guy's what was this guy's like title that he
He's a
didn't have
monitor
the account?
engineer, and he's toured longer than me. Like I said, he really didn't do it facetiously. I don't like he wasn't. He genuinely was like I said, the bottom bunk typically people like more than a top bunk. He
Okay.
was one of the weird people like myself who prefers a top bunk. So like that was just like I said, he kind of just made an assumption, and it turned out I don't really care that much. But the first 2 nights, I was like. Then I was like, whatever. I really, and then I got to know him, and I was like, "I whatever. Like, genuinely didn't care. But it was like that moment I was like, this mother trucker really just tried to take my bunk. And then I was like, whatever. It is what it is. I don't, that was enough. But there are some people who would actually like be mad about that.
But does it happen? I imagine that when you're in like close quarters with people for an extended period of time, like there are just times where you do naturally get mad at each other.
I mean, to an extent, I've never really seen too many people like at their throats. Every once in a while, people get mad, but I don't know. The road is so weird. Like, it's just like, it's so, I don't know. I think like, I'm sure there's unhealthy camps where people are mad at each other all the time. So I'm not gonna. I've thankfully not really been around it. Like I said, we've had a couple things where you hear people hashing down in the back lounge. It happens, like you said. Even your own family members, you sometimes get frustrated with. You know what I mean? Like that's just life. But for the most part, if if you're someone who causes problems, you're just not gonna get hired again. So
Yeah.
there's a level, unless something really deserves to be like confronted.
Hmm.
Which, if there's something that really needs to be confronted, needs to be confronted. So I'm not saying we just like shove everything under the rug. But for those minor things, it's really not worth your reputation to blow up about something like that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Like a bunk. Like there's no reason. I never want to be the guy who's like, James got pissed off and freaked out on the guy because he was in his bunk. Like, no. I really we all get the same point. Like, it's not like one bed's comfier than the other. They're all the same man. Like, you know what I mean? It's not so that's not worth me like causing anything. And he's actually talked about bringing me out to be a merch guy on one of his gigs. So that would be like, you know what I mean? Like we're friends. Like there's
Yeah, yeah.
nothing there. Obviously at that point though, I'd never met him before. So like that was like but yeah, it's just like you don't want to be the one who causes problems. Everybody will say this, and this is the number one piece of advice I was given. It's like your talent will only get you so far. It's your hang and vibe that will get you further.
Hmm.
There are
I think
people who are
that's
less talented that get gigs because they're just better to be around.
hmm. Yeah.
So,
I mean, but that's true of every job, I
oh,
think.
for sure. But when you live with people, I do think there is like an added thing because it's like, oh, if this person literally just never shuts up,
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
is a level of like he could be a nice guy, but there's a level of like, okay, dude, like we're just trying to have a beer and watch South Park.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to be talking nonstop.
Fair.
Like, we had a guy like that on the tour a couple months ago, not Same Motel, another tour. And then conveniently, he was supposed to be on a run, and then he wasn't able to go. And we were all like, that's good. He just never shut up. It was just like, we just didn't need. And so I was like,
Yeah.
that's just how it is.
Didn't
And it's
think
not,
he'd
like I
bring it
said,
up.
he was a nice guy. He just was just like, bro, stop talking.
Yeah. Fair. Fair. Well, is there Anything else though that we didn't touch on that you're like, I would like to say that either about the job or I don't know, the vibe or yourself creatively or
I don't know. What do you think?
no, I
This
feel
is my
like
I haven't done a podcast about this ever, so I was like, all right, let's just
yeah, yeah. No, I love just hearing about it. Yeah, I just never really there's so many just jobs out there I just don't think of. And yeah, obviously, yeah, it's like a whole thing and like a whole ecosystem and a whole like world. And then there's
yeah.
all these like logistical networks and like so yeah, it's just so fascinating. But yeah, I feel
Big
like
takeaways, make sure you buy merch because the band needs it. Don't have to tip, that's whatever. I would prefer it, but you don't have to.
I'll
But
always buy a t-shirt. I'm not tipping.
but yeah, yeah, it's a weird I even just having this conversation, I'm like, yeah, my life's weird.
No, but it
Because
is.
like
It's
even right
super
now, I'm like working at this warehouse, but I'm also advancing a show I'm doing for an artist up in Canada. So I'm gonna go tour manage for a show. I'm not even doing merch, I'm tour managing, so
yeah.
New
No, but
Year's
it's
Eve,
like
so
I don't know, it's a good vibe for like who would be the right person to like get into this if you like met someone like who's the best candidate to like do this?
merch, you just have to be on top of stuff and be nice. Because merch, I wouldn't say merch. There are some jobs where you're like, okay, like to be a front of house guy, you have to know how to mix and make a good sound. Like you know what I mean? Being a merch rep, like there's no degree required. There's a level of just common sense. So like
Mhm.
like common sense, but as long as you can count, just like count. Don't be lazy. Team
Yeah.
player. I mean, you're the merch guy. Same hotel. We had a show in Miami. It was an absolute crapshoot. Not same hotel's part, but just like the venue and all this stuff. And at the end of the night, I'm pushing road cases down a block to help load up the trailers. That's not my job. There is nothing in my contract that says I need to do that. But like I'm a team player and I want to make sure the whole team succeeds.
Mhm.
So make sure you're a team player. Um yeah, team player and just be a good hang.
All
Like
right.
especially merch, be a good hang. It's like everybody has opinions about merch people, good and bad. Merch is a very interesting role within camps because some people think you're useless and they're like, why are you here kind of vibe. So it depends on the camp.
No,
So
I
as
don't
long
think so.
as
I
you
feel
can
like
win people over, your kindness and your teamwork, and like even something as silly, this is gonna sound dumb, but it's like I don't have to wake up and load in at noon with everybody. I could sleep past that and do my own thing. But
mhm.
I make sure that I'm in the trailer at noon getting my stuff the same time everybody else is, just because it's like, hey, we're all in this together. Let's just like at least start the day, even though we're all gonna go separate ways as the day goes on. Let's at
Yeah.
least start the day together and like vibe. So like I think those small things make a big difference.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it was cool. It was cool meeting you in Berlin. It was cool hearing, yeah, a lot more about it now. I feel like I got some nuggets about it in Berlin, and I was like, wait a
Yeah.
second, like these guys go in a lot of places. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I just appreciate you taking the time. And yeah, now I just learned something about camps, about being a roadie, about yeah,
Yeah.
merch, about all the travel. So, yeah, super appreciate it, James.
Awesome.
Um,
Thank you. You have a good one.